The Pistons, 1993. Lame Beer versus Thomas. The Bad Boys' reign of terror? Officially over. What was left was frustration, simmering into a full-blown boil between two titans of a dying dynasty. The championship swagger had evaporated, leaving only the sting of mediocrity and a locker room brawl to punctuate their descent. The Pistons' Bad Boys' facade cracked, wide open mid-season, pressure cooked by a quartet of losses. Frustration, a bitter stew, boiled over as Isaiah Thomas, the team's incandescent spark, launched a haymaker at Bill Lame Beer, the team's resident iron wall. The swing landed, albeit disastrously for Thomas, who managed to fracture his hand against Lame Beer's granite jaw. The Pistons organization maintained a tight-lipped silence, but whispers leaked from the locker room's inner sanctum, later surfacing in reports by outlets like Bleacher Report, confirming the fracturing of more than just Thomas's hand. The Motor City's reign wasn't ending with a whimper, but a brawl. The Bad Boys, once inseparable under Daly's unforgiving creed, were imploding. Isaiah and Lame Beer, blood brothers forged in the fires of brutal competition, found their volatile bond igniting from within. Two alpha dogs, circling each other in the ruins of a fading kingdom, ready to bite. The fallout from the Lame Beer-Thomas brawl lingered longer than the bruises. Publicly, the Pistons soldiered on, but the locker room's soul had fractured. Insiders whispered that the fistfight tolled the death knell for the Bad Boys era. Rebuild followed, camaraderie vanished, replaced by the cold reality of a dynasty crumbling. As one forgotten Piston lamented, the punches weren't fueled by animosity, but by the corrosive pride of alpha dogs. Next up, a clash of titans in Chicago. Jordan versus Kerr, 1995. Jordan, fresh off his baseball detour, wasn't back in '95 to play Mr. Nice Guy. He was a man possessed, a king desperate for his crown. And in a Bulls practice, that hunger exploded. He rode his teammates mercilessly, a nonstop barrage of trash talk, demanding more than they thought they had. Finally, the ever-steady Steve Kerr, normally the picture of calm, reached his breaking point. Jordan, never one to back down, met Kerr's defiance head-on. A lightning-fast jab, precise and brutal, left Kerr sporting a shiner. The squeak of sneakers vanished, replaced by a stunned silence echoing through the Bulls' practice facility. Phil Jackson, ever the Zen master, dispersed the brewing storm, banishing both warriors from the court. The oddity, as revealed later in The Last Dance and Kerr's ESPN confessional, was that this violent clash birthed a peculiar camaraderie. Kerr himself admitted to a healthy dose of respect, acknowledging Jordan's superior force. But the punch, it seemed, was a strange rite of passage, a brutal affirmation of Kerr's willingness to stand his ground against the alpha. The air cleared, charged not with animosity, but a strange respect. Jordan, it seemed, had found a kindred spirit in Kerr's grit. From then on, they were brothers in arms. Fast forward to '97. Kerr, the unlikely hero, sinks the championship dagger, Jordan delivering the assist. That singular act of violence, improbably, forged one of the most iconic duos the league had ever seen. Now, shift gears to Scott Skiles and Orlando Magic, the '90s. Picture this: a young, colossal Shaquille O'Neal, fresh off the turnip truck, ruling the paint like a giddy titan. But the Magic locker room wasn't all sunshine and smiles. Veteran point guard Scott Skiles, a wiry terrier with a Napoleon complex, wasn't about to let Shaq's exuberance run wild. One fateful practice, the pot boiled over. Skiles, fueled by frustration at Shaq's easy dominance, reportedly took a wild swipe. The punch was a whiff, but it unleashed the beast. Instantaneously, the 7-foot center had Skiles clamped in a headlock the size of the Everglades. Cooler heads prevailed before blood was drawn, but the image remained etched in memory. A diminutive guard taking a swing at a behemoth of center. Incredibly, teammates later claimed the fracas forged a stronger bond. As Bleacher Report observed, no fines were levied, no suspensions handed down, and surprisingly, no grudges nursed. Skiles, simply by having the audacity to confront Shaq, had earned the big man's respect. Orlando, fueled by Shaq, Penny, and Skiles' grit, rose to become a thrilling force in the '90s, culminating in a '95 finals appearance. That practice court dust-up, bizarrely, became a bonding ritual, fortifying their unity instead of fracturing it. Meanwhile, up north in 2000, Kevin Garnett's intensity boiled over against Wally Szczerbiak of the Timberwolves. Kevin Garnett, a leader forged in the furnace of intensity, his demands bordering on the tyrannical. Wally Szczerbiak, gifted scorer but temperamentally softer, frequently found himself scorched by Garnett's inferno. It all boiled over in a 2000 Timberwolves practice. A petty squabble, a blown screen, ignited the powder keg. Garnett, legend has it, unleashed a volcanic eruption on Szczerbiak for a missed defensive rotation. The simmering rage boiled over in the training room's sterile white. Garnett, a coiled spring of intensity, cornered Szczerbiak. Words weren't enough. Physicality became the language. A storm of limbs threatened before teammates intervened, holding back the tempest. No blood, no penalty, but a stark message delivered. Garnett's fire would forge them, whether they liked it or not. Respect, not malice, fueled the near brawl, a desperate plea from the wolf to his pack, according to Fadeaway World. Garnett's fiery spirit, though it burned hot, became the Timberwolves' driving force. The incident with Szczerbiak, managed behind closed doors, proved a catalyst. Years later, KG steered them to the 2004 Western Conference Finals, the two eventually patching things up. In Garnett's universe, a touch of inferno was occasionally the price of progress. Then came Zach Randolph versus Ruben Patterson, 2003. Portland. The Jail Blazers moniker wasn't just PR spin, it was a lifestyle. This incident? Exhibit A. A practice scrimmage turned powder keg when Ruben Patterson and Quintel Woods locked horns in a shouting match. Enter Zach Randolph, a young volcano waiting to erupt, leaping to Woods' defense. Randolph, a powder keg with a fuse lit short, detonated on Patterson. The blow shattered bone around Patterson's eye, a brutal punctuation mark in the Blazers' already chaotic narrative. So hard did Randolph hit, the tale goes, that he scurried to Dale Davis's place, seeking refuge from the fallout. The Blazers, reeling, slapped Randolph with a $100,000 fine and a 2-game timeout, a gesture reported by Complex Sports. Patterson, a walking lightning rod himself, never really reclaimed his footing in the Portland Storm. It was bedlam layered upon bedlam. The Trail Blazers, already infamous for their rap sheet of transgressions both vehicular and violent, added another grim entry to their history. Patterson shipped out soon after, while Randolph, against all odds, eventually found redemption and leadership far away in Memphis. But in that moment, in 2003, the fistfight served as a perfect microcosm of the team's ills, an excess of swagger colliding with a deficit of discipline. In a circus that was the 2005 Knicks, even the fights were bizarre. Forget ego battles. This one stemmed from a Monday Night Football bet gone sour between vet Malik Rose and rookie Nate Robinson. Under Larry Brown's chaotic reign, it was just another day at the office, albeit one punctuated by a fist or two. It was Knicks versus debt. Rose, owing Robinson from a football wager, apparently dragged his feet. Bleacher Report whispered of the confrontation, raw and exposed, happening mid-shower. The shouting match, amplified by the tile and echoing down the corridor, became a public spectacle, audible even to the press pack lingering outside. A brief, wet skirmish ensued, a chaotic ballet of suds and simmering anger, thankfully quelled before it truly erupted. Nate Robinson, a rookie barely scraping 5'9", carried the defiance of a giant. Malik Rose, a grizzled 6'7" veteran, was built on old-school grit. On paper, a laughably uneven pairing. But Robinson, bless his 5'0" heart, radiated a kilowatt energy. The Knicks, naturally, hushed it up fast. The league office shrugged. A few terse words from the front office, chalking it up to internal affairs. Nate and Malik played it cool. Robinson, he'd become a garden darling, defying gravity with his dunks. Rose, he'd trade elbows for a headset, climbing the broadcast and executive ladder. Looking back, that Knicks scuffle, just another bizarre, harmless initiation, a rookie's crash course in locker room etiquette, courtesy of the one and only New York. Then came Eaton Thomas versus, in the nation's capital, circa '06, a Wizards war rage between Eaton Thomas and Brendan Haywood. Their animosity wasn't a simmering rivalry, but a full-blown locker room inferno, fueled by the insatiable hunger for that coveted starting center slot. The battle lines were drawn, and the first shots fired when Haywood, vying for position beneath the basket during practice, allegedly delivered an elbow jab to Thomas. The fight for minutes had turned physical. Thomas didn't back down, fists flying in return. A full-blown melee erupted, requiring the entire Wizards roster to pull them apart. Suspensions followed. Haywood once, Thomas twice, a testament to their ongoing feud. ESPN reported the discord wasn't isolated. The Wizards' locker room fractured into rival camps, Team Thomas and Team Haywood, poisoning the atmosphere and proving a persistent headache for coach Eddie Jordan. The battle for supremacy wasn't confined to the court. It was a clash of ideologies. Haywood, the stoic traditionalist, versus Thomas, the fiery, politically engaged provocateur. Even fists couldn't settle their differences, as veiled barbs continued to fly in post-game interviews. Thomas's subsequent heart ailment sidelined him, paving the way for Haywood to claim the starting spot, a victory hard-won and tinged with the unspoken tensions of their fractured camaraderie on the Washington Wizards. The Thomas Haywood saga, a cautionary tale etched in knuckles and bruised egos, proving team chemistry can be as delicate as spun glass when ambition sharpens to a point. But the darkness truly descends with Arenas and Crittenton in 2009, Washington. We leave the realm of closed fists and enter one of drawn steel. That incident, the blackest mark on the ledger of NBA teammate conflict, a chilling near miss with oblivion. December 2009, a team flight, a card game, a debt of a measly $100. Gilbert Arenas, the Wizards headliner, ribbed Javers Crittenton about it. Crittenton didn't take it lightly. Words escalated into threats. Fast forward 2 days. Arenas, in a move of staggering foolishness, laid out 4 unloaded firearms in the locker room, a twisted invitation to choose. Crittenton countered, drawing his own weapon, loaded, and leveling it at Arenas. The locker room went arctic. No blood was shed, but the NBA offices vibrated with dread. The hammer fell swiftly, season over for both. Arenas, once a supernova, entered a black hole. 3 years later, he was gone, a cautionary tale whispered in gyms. Crittenton's saga took an even grimmer turn. Years after the Wizards debacle, he traded layups for lockups, convicted of manslaughter and disappearing into the prison system for over a decade. The gun incident forced the NBA to slam the brakes on its laissez-faire attitude toward locker room conduct, mandating stricter policies. The league, as Bleacher Report documented, was forever scarred. It wasn't merely a fistfight gone wrong. It was a stark morality play about how unchecked ego and juvenile recklessness could detonate a promising career in an instant. In a 10 season, Boston's aged Celtics, desperate for one last taste of glory, harbored a simmering unease. Delonte West, back from battling demons that clung tighter than any defender, found himself in a 3-on-3. Against Von Wafer, West unleashed a torrent of fouls, a physical manifestation of the turmoil within. Wafer, stewing in his own frustration, sought refuge in an early shower, believing the incident concluded. He emerged, only to be met with a stark reality. West, a tempestuous figure battling unseen foes, reportedly lay in wait near the locker room threshold. A punch landed, a stark declaration of simmering unrest. Teammates intervened, a flurry of bodies attempting to quell the storm, but the message hung heavy in the air. West was a man at war with himself. Boston chose not to suspend him, a public display of restraint, but behind closed doors his value to the Celtics was quietly, perhaps irrevocably, diminished. For Delonte West, the altercation with Wafer felt like a cruel inevitability. Dogged by a bipolar diagnosis and barely a year removed from gun charges, West's internal battles had become painfully public. This wasn't just a fight, it was a flashing neon sign screaming of instability. Wafer, for his part, remained a ghost in the aftermath, offering no comment, no olive branch. The schism remained, and West, sadly, was already on the precipice of an NBA freefall from which he wouldn't recover. The Delonte West experiment in Boston imploded. A few fleeting appearances then vanished, swallowed by the unforgiving undertow of mental illness and homelessness. Meanwhile, in Memphis, 2011, Tony Allen and O.J. Mayo. A playful card game, so it began. Memphis, 2011. Grit and grind wasn't just a slogan, it was a pressure cooker. The Grizzlies, forged in physicality, saw that intensity detonate on a team flight. The fuse? O.J. Mayo, allegedly slow-paying a gambling debt to Tony Allen, and unwise enough to run his mouth about it. Allen, a man who took grit literally, reportedly collected his due with a right hook that rearranged Mayo's face. The price of poker, Memphis style. The Grizzly Bear pit buzzed after the Allen-Mayo dust-up. Reddit sleuths documented Mayo's next-day shiner. Hollins, playing referee, corralled the combatants for a peace summit, demanding a handshake and a vow to bury the hatchet. But the brawl, far from being a stain, became a badge. Memphis embraced the raw, untamed spirit. Allen, the junkyard dog on defense, and Mayo, the cocky young gun, epitomized the team's newfound grit and grind ethos. Allen and Mayo, never bosom buddies, at least propelled Memphis to the postseason. Another testament to the volatile cocktail of NBA locker rooms. Equal parts ego and gambling debts. Meanwhile, in Sacramento, March 2011, Cousins versus Green. Another Kings loss, another eruption. Sacramento Kings, circa 2011. Another night, another flare-up courtesy of DeMarcus Cousins. Post-game, the rookie volcano erupted, this time directing his molten fury at Dante Green. The offense? A perceived slight. Cousins claimed Green iced him out on the final, critical play, denying him the chance to be the hero. The locker room, once again, became a battleground. Green's retort was a spark. Before anyone could blink, Cousins detonated fists ablur. A scrum of teammates wrestled them apart before the situation truly curdled. Whispers on Reddit, citing Sacramento ink-stained wretches, first carried the tale. Mainstream outlets soon echoed the news. Coach Paul Westphal, with a grim shake of his head, benched Cousins for behavior poisonous to the team. The big man's past offered a grim explanation. Cousins, even fresh off the rookie truck, was a walking volatility index. Technicals, ejections, a constant simmer of verbal jabs. It wasn't malice, though. It was a white-hot furnace of competitive frustration, a distrust in anyone sharing his court. Green, a quieter cog in the Sacramento machine, recoiled from Cousins' eruption. A sheepish apology later, and Cousins was back in the lineup, the volcano temporarily dormant. Cousins and Green both moved on from the altercation, but the incident became a prologue to Cousins' turbulent career, an undeniable gift hampered by a volatile temperament. Sacramento remained mired in mediocrity, and the label of difficult clung to Cousins, even as his all-star potential blossomed. Shifting gears to the championship-driven intensity of LeBron James versus Mario Chalmers during their time together on the Miami Heat. Even emperors have their disgruntled subjects. In Miami, during the reign of the Big Three, King James often found his Mario Chalmers offering dissent. The television, cameras, ever watchful, regularly captured the fiery debates. But one Pacers game in particular etched itself into memory. Midway through the second quarter, a defensive lapse drew LeBron's volcanic ire, directed squarely at Chalmers. The response? A shout back. The King's reply? A thunderous charge. Wade and others wrestled James back from the fray. I told him to chill, stop. Acting soft, Chalmers would later say. LeBron, king though he was, bristled at the critique, only to offer a head pat peace offering during the next timeout. The tension was thick. Chalmers, the callow point guard, handed the impossible task of quarterbacking a team overflowing with supernova-sized egos. King James, demanding nothing less than the crown, frequently wielded the lash of expectation. Chalmers, ever the defiant subject, met each decree with open rebellion. Theirs was a court of constant squabbles, yet beneath the discord thrummed a mutual respect, forged in the fires of ambition. Miami, fueled by their volatile synergy, ascended to consecutive championships in 12 and 13. Even the King conceded that Chalmers, his persistent antagonist, had sharpened his own edge. The Heat's internal firestorms forged them, each argument a twisted family value on their championship banner. But for the 2014 Pacers, it was different. Turner versus Stevenson wasn't a birth pang, but a death rattle. Crowned contenders to Miami's throne just months before, they instead cannibalized themselves. This brawl? A grim trailer for their season's unraveling. The Pacers' last tune-up before the playoff crucible became a discordant symphony of fists. Evan Turner, the freshly minted addition, locked horns with resident firebrand Lance Stevenson. Egos, as ever, were supersized. Neither man, possessed of unshakable self-belief, yielded an inch. Reportedly, it was Turner who uncorked the initial haymaker, answered swiftly by a Stevenson counteroffensive until cooler heads intervened. Frank Vogel, the conductor of this increasingly chaotic orchestra, was forced to halt the session, Bleacher Report noted, in a desperate attempt to restore harmony. The timing, on the cusp of the postseason, only amplified the off-key nature of the brawl. Evan Turner, the new Philly import, landed in Indiana like a disruptive asteroid. Stevenson, the Pacers' defensive soul, saw red, feeling his territory violated. The subsequent brawl confirmed the whispers. This was a team fracturing under its own weight. The Pacers, once a contender, spiraled into oblivion. The Pacers limped through the playoffs, only to be scorched by the Heat in the conference finals. Soon after, both Turner and Stevenson were gone. Looking back, that locker room brawl was the precise instant Indiana's fragile unity shattered, just before the postseason pressure cooker ignited. Bobby Portis versus Nikola Mirotic, 2017, Chicago Bulls. This wasn't mere pushing and shoving. Chicago, October 2017, a Bulls practice turned into a boxing ring. The simmer between Bobby Portis and Nikola Mirotic finally boiled over. Whispers turned to shouts as Mirotic, needling Portis about his lackluster effort, crossed the line. A warning went unheeded, a step too close, and then, impact. Portis' fist connected, rewriting the script of that Bulls season. The punch landed. Mirotic crumpled, victim to a concussion and fractured jaw. Portis earned an 8-game suspension courtesy of the team, as the SI report confirmed. Mirotic landed in the hospital, sidelined for weeks. The seeds of this explosion were sown in the preseason, both men vying for the same power forward slot. It was a clash of ambition. Portis, the hungry upstart clawing for minutes, versus Mirotic, the established vet guarding his turf. The animosity, simmering for an eternity, finally boiled over. The fallout? A disaster. Mirotic iced Portis out completely. A fragile peace was brokered, but the fracture was irreparable. New Orleans became Mirotic's new home before the season's end. Portis, however, managed a redemption arc, culminating in a championship ring with Milwaukee in 21. Looking back, Portis conceded it was a low point, but one that forged resilience within him. And then there was the Lakers, 2021 vintage, champions cracking at the seams. Davis versus Howard. Not a championship bout, but a bench-clearing brawl in miniature against the Suns. A missed defensive cue, a flash of AD's incandescent rage, a grabbed arm, a torrent of words. Aimed at Howard. A trajectory altered, a season doomed. Even kings, it seems, can fall victim to internal strife. Howard rose to meet him. A brief entanglement ensued before the inevitable intervention. The clip spread like wildfire. Two presumptive legends, grappling mid-game. Unthinkable. The cameras, as always, captured it all. Beneath the surface of that televised squabble lay a year of simmering discontent. The 2020 championship banner felt like a distant memory. By 21, the Lakers' frustrations had reached a rolling boil. The Lakers were listing, wounded by bad luck and baffling rotations. Davis and Howard, two titans crammed into a phone booth, were bumping elbows. The post-game spin was predictable. "Nothing to see here," Howard mumbled. "Just a little miscommunication." Davis nodded, playing along. But the optics were damning. To those watching from the outside, that brief bench skirmish screamed of a deeper rot within the Laker ecosystem. The Lakers shrugged it off, a dust-up quickly forgotten by team brass. Yet the season remained stubbornly earthbound. That Davis-Howard bench skirmish? It became a haunting visual, the epitaph of a star-laden squad imploding from the inside out. Fast forward to October 5th, 2022, Golden State Warriors practice. Draymond Green and Jordan Poole. A humdrum workout transmuted into a digital wildfire, an instant NBA infamy. In the pressure cooker of Golden State's practice gym, Green and Poole, two volatile elements, mixed with predictable results. Trash talk, a daily currency, took on a sharper edge that day. Whispers painted Poole's ascendant confidence, post-championship gleam, as an irritant to Green's established dominance. A snapped retort from Poole, and Green detonated. Closing the gap with predatory speed, chest-to-chest confrontation escalated to a swift, brutal punch that sent Poole sprawling. The aftermath, a leaked TMZ video, went viral, instantly etching the moment into NBA infamy. The hardwood reverberated with a thud, a shockwave felt beyond the Chase Center. It wasn't just the brutality of the blow that silenced onlookers. It was the fractured narrative it exposed. Draymond, the dynasty's snarling heart, versus Poole, the heir apparent, cocky and ascendant. Whispers of a looming contract extension for the young guard had already seeded discord, a growing resentment festering amongst the elder statesmen of Golden State. The Green haymaker served as brutal confirmation. The fallout was swift, if not pretty. Green skated, suspension-free, a choice that reeked of favoritism. His mea culpa was public, claiming leadership failure. Poole, though outwardly composed, held Green at arm's length. They coexisted on the court that season, but the old spark was extinguished. Come summer, Poole was shipped to Washington. It was a jarring fissure in Golden State's polished facade, a stark reminder that even empires crumble from within. Next up, Jimmy Butler versus T.J. Warren, a clash etched not in the hushed confines of a locker room, but broadcast for all eyes to witness. January 8th, 2020, Heat versus Pacers. A hard foul, simmering resentments bubbling to the surface, then the explosion. Warren's shove, Butler's immediate, intense response, a face-to-face confrontation crackling with animosity. Butler, dismissed but undeterred, punctuated his exit with a theatrical kiss blown towards Warren, a gesture immortalized by 1,000 flashing lenses. The post-game assessment was brutal. "He's trash," Butler declared, promising a sequel. A Bleacher Report exclusive. The animosity simmered for seasons. Both Butler and Warren thrived on the edge, physical specimens fueled by pure competitiveness. But Miami was Butler's domain, a land of ruthless efficiency, and Warren's intensity proved a volatile mix. Fines were levied, but the Real battle moved online. Butler, ever the showman, circled their next clash on Instagram, posting a digital gauntlet. "I'm locking you up." The anticipated Butler-Warren sequel, alas, was kiboshed by the pandemic's grip and the bubble's confines. Yet, that kiss, a brazen lip-lock jab, remains a viral monument to Butler's scorching competitive spirit, forever etched in NBA lore. Speaking of simmering resentments, Rajon Rondo and Ray Allen, Celtics brothers, turned bitter rivals from 2011 to 2017. Forget fisticuffs. This was a deep freeze, a silent scream of animosity. In Boston's parquet cathedral, Rondo and Allen were cornerstones of Celtic glory. Yet, beneath the banners, a slow-burning Cold War simmered. The fuse? Lit, some say, in 2011. Rondo, the emerging maestro of the offense, and Allen, the steely marksman, found themselves in disharmony. Whispers of play-calling disputes and a perceived power struggle echoed through the locker room. Allen, sources claimed, felt a veteran's due was being denied. Rondo, in turn, sensed a condescension from Allen. By 12, their communication had dwindled to icy silence. Allen's subsequent defection to LeBron's Miami Heat, the very team that had crushed Boston's title dreams, was, in Rondo's eyes, a personal betrayal, a cut that ran deeper than any on-court rivalry. The chill between Rondo and Allen hardened into glacial ice over the seasons. Pierce and Garnett, loyal to their point guard, effectively excommunicated Allen from the Celtics brotherhood, leaving him absent from celebrations and reunions. A tentative olive branch, Allen's Instagram post in 2017, a solitary piece, offered little warmth. It wasn't until Garnett's jersey retirement in 2022, a full reunion of the championship squad, that the frost finally thawed. No blows were exchanged, no suspensions handed down, but the emotional wounds festered deep. Theirs was a slow-burn feud, measured not in fleeting moments of rage, but in years of simmering resentment. Marvin Barnes versus, well, everyone. Back in the ABA's wilder days, before the NBA fully absorbed its renegade spirit, there was Marvin Bad News Barnes. The moniker wasn't just for show. Think Tire Iron meets Team Meeting, Spirits of St. Louis, 1974-75 vintage. Marvin Barnes, a walking volcano in a Spirits of St. Louis jersey, possessed a temper that made Vesuvius look like a lukewarm bath. The definitive eruption occurred when he took exception to anything Larry Finch did during practice. Barnes, convinced Finch had slighted him, a talent Barnes possessed for perceiving offenses invisible to the naked eye, didn't simmer. He detonated. ESPN Classic recounts how Barnes, fueled by perceived disrespect, morphed into a one-man demolition crew. He raided his car for a tire iron, transforming it into an instrument of retribution. Only the combined efforts of security and bewildered teammates prevented Finch from becoming intimately acquainted with Goodyear rubber and cold, hard steel. The attack failed, but the fallout? That lingered like a persistent, acrid odor. Marvin Barnes, a name synonymous with wasted potential, paid the price, shackled by suspension and the long arm of the law. This was a Shakespearean tragedy, a hardwood prodigy undone by his own demons. Providence adored him, the ABA coveted him, anointing him second overall pick in '74. Yet, Barnes' brilliance flickered fitfully, dimmed by a constellation of off-court calamities and explosive anger. He ricocheted between leagues, his raw talent forever obscured by the shadow of his volatile nature. The tire iron, a symbol of his self-sabotage, marked not just an incident, but the irreversible slide into oblivion. Barnes' flame extinguished by the early '80s. Addiction claimed much of his life before his 2014 passing. His tale is a stark prequel, a cautionary whisper of unchecked ego and self-immolation in the pro game. Fast forward to 2024 and the 76ers. Embiid versus Oubre, a simmering dispute that, sadly, boiled over. Merely the latest chapter in basketball's long, troubled history of internal strife. The Sixers' 2024 season simmered with discontent, a fact not lost on Philly's press corps, who whispered of a brewing storm between Joel Embiid and Kelly Oubre Jr. after one too many gut punch losses, particularly a stinging defeat at the hands of the Miami Heat, the dam burst in the locker room. Sources say Oubre, his patience frayed, challenged Embiid directly, questioning his leadership and, perhaps more damning, his aloof body language. The crux of the matter? According to Oubre, the team desperately needed a dose of accountability that started at the top. Embiid, never one to mince words, volleyed back with a barb. Voices rose, a discordant symphony only halted by intervening bodies, preventing a descent into fisticuffs. The context was clear. Oubre had been a flickering flame of offensive consistency amidst the team's sputtering struggles, while Embiid, hobbled by injury and gasping for wind, clearly took umbrage at Oubre Jr.'s pointed remarks. Word was, Embiid considered them a personal affront, while Oubre saw himself as voicing the locker room's simmering discontent. Nurse, ever the diplomat, publicly downplayed the incident, handled internally. We're focused on our competitors. No suspensions followed, and the uneasy truce held. Even so, those in the know whispered that the Embiid-Oubre clash revealed fractures within the Sixers' ranks, the kind that often foreshadow seismic shifts come summer. Thanks for tuning in. If this resonated with you, explore similar stories by clicking one of the videos now showing.